SKUMAX is it's not really an app. It's more of a paradigm shift in retail. We're tracking SKU movement in real time, and we're doing that so that people can get better profits. If we have better turnover rates, better velocities, then we therefore can increase our profits a little bit. And that's pretty much fundamentally where I'm at. But there's a lot more to the paradigm shift.
Welcome back
to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast,
hosted by Matt Mueller,
best-selling author of The Mindful Innovator and Rethink Retail's top retail expert.
We help retail leaders find clarity so they can grow their businesses purposefully.
We will uncover mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice and strategies that you can apply immediately to your retail innovation.
Are you ready to innovate on purpose?
Hey, before we jump into the episode today, I just wanted to say thank you for hitting the play button. You being here fires me up, and I cannot wait to share with you the insights that are going to make a difference in your business. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and leave a review so I can reach as many retail leaders as possible. They too need to hear this. Okay, let's do it. Welcome back to Innovate on Purpose, the show where we explore how leaders turn intention into innovation. Today, we're diving into how AI is changing the physical store itself and why the next wave of retail transformation may come from small businesses, not Silicon Valley. My guest, Maximilian Anderson, is the founder of SKUMAX, an emerging platform helping retailers see what time is really costing them and turning it into profit from a $150 laptop into a 300 square foot garage to a live app integrated with Square. Max's story is proof that innovation doesn't need a boardroom. It needs purpose. So let's start at the beginning. Max, welcome to the show and tell us a little bit about you and SkewMax.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course.
Well, as far as I go, I'm really into efficiency and making things and systems move better. So when I experienced retail for the first time, I noticed, especially SMB retail specifically, that the amount of tools they have available to them to improve their profits and keep an eye on how their stores are doing, they're almost non-existent. Most POS systems are transactional. And so SKUMAX it's not really an app. It's more of a paradigm shift in retail. We're tracking SKU movement in real time, and we're doing that so that people can get better profits. If we have better turnover rates, better velocities, then we therefore can increase our profits a little bit. And that's pretty much fundamentally where I'm at. But there's a lot more to the paradigm shift. We'll get into that. But primarily, I'm tracking SKUs in real time and doing so that everyone can do a little bit better with their profit.
Tracking SKUs in real time. That is definitely something that is different. Like I'm from the CPG world, and I know like with our Nielsen data, spins data, we're able to see the velocity of product turning through store. But that's, something that is, one, forecasted because Nielsen doesn't have access to every single store's data. So we don't see, accurate in-store results, and it's not live either, right? So it's something that we see, but we can only look at, when the data is updated every single week. So it's very interesting to hear what you're doing with tracking the velocity in live time. That's really neat.
I feel like primarily I'm doing the opposite of Nielsen. Nielsen are aggregators of data, aggregators of categories, and I'm an atomizer. I'm taking everything down very, very granular, right to each individual SKU. And I'm able to do that from transactional data, which has already been stored. POS systems across the globe have transactional data, and it's not being used for anything other than compliance. So when a SKU sells, there's a bit of metadata attached to that, which is basically my signal, which I can listen to. And instead of it just being siloed for compliance, in case, there's a credit card issue or something like that, we're bringing it to life and we're watching it in real time. So I can essentially tell you how many black socks sold in a certain state whenever I feel like it. And the real thing is that this is going to be queryable with natural language. So I'm going to be able to speak to my inventory, talk to my inventory, I like to say, and ask it, how did I do last November? How many units did I move? Just simple questions like that that Nielsen, I think, are missing right now in their aggregations.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been around for so long, and that's the model that they've used, and it's worked to an extent, but it's thinking about it completely differently in what you're doing at SKUMAX. But before
I,
we
I, wa-
dive,
I waited 12 years for this tech
yeah,
to catch up. So
yeah,
this isn't a new idea for me. I've had this plan for a long time. Now the tech's available.
yeah, definitely. So you've been sitting on this for over a decade, waiting for the technology to catch up. But like, I'm curious a little bit more about your background because I think it's always interesting to hear the backstory of like, where these ideas were founded from. Because as we're innovators, it's like, well, where does the insight come from that says I need to go and chase this down? So what was that spark for you?
Well, that for me was working as a contractor. I was doing some remodeling at the time in Hawaii, and I ended up working for a retail owner who just purchased a new store location. Well, she purchased the business, so she purchased the lease in a sense, and we were building out. Um, I started hearing about cams, and I think it was 20% of gross commissions for the rental space. Just some of these numbers that were coming at me. I as a business owner, I was, wow, how could you possibly make any profit in here? And so they were telling me a little bit about their POS system and how it worked because we had some rapport going by this time. I'd been with them, for a few weeks. Um, and I really wanted to delve into how they could possibly at, $14 per square foot plus cam plus 20% gross. How as a retailer are you going to make any money? And that's when I realized there were no tools and there was no tracking. This was simply I swipe a credit card, a customer's credit card, and then a small amount of money goes into my account. And that's really all that these POS systems are doing. Sure, they got into a little bit of inventory tracking as far as your stock amounts and such, but no real metrics, nothing that can really truly help from a performance standpoint for someone on the front line. How are they going to make any money? And when I started talking to her, I asked her, how would you calculate profits, right? So pretty easy, my retail sales minus my cost of goods, and that's my money. And I said, well, what about time? What about time? And she said, well, time doesn't matter. And I said, well, you've got your cam, you've got your $14 a square foot, 20% of gross. I feel like time matters an awful lot. And just couldn't see it. And that was the moment of clarity where I would just thought to myself, wow, there's POS systems out there with lots of people, and I seeing the logos everywhere and all the, when I'm making purchases, I know the POS systems just as a consumer, and there's no tech. And so I wanted to immediately import everyone's inventory and start helping them. But those tools, those channels weren't yet open, those pipelines. And those pipelines are APIs today, where I can get a user's credentials. They allow me to view their inventory. I don't modify their inventory, I just take a peek. And from there, I generate all of this interesting data. Some of it might be a little bit too granular for some people. I think that's why, an AI coach kind of comes into play. That really fundamentally, that was that moment 12, 13 years ago that I had that spark, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And it took me a while in the sense of the tech wasn't there. I was ready, and then today here we are. We're moving, we're rolling. It's a live machine. Users are onboarding. We're helping stores. They're improving their profits. I mean, it's happening. It's real. I'm not the biggest, most successful tech company on the planet, but I feel incredibly successful because I'm already helping people. And that's really where it started from, was from a retailer in a squeeze who had no insight. That's where I started.
Yes. So like getting to the point where the tech was ready, like what was like the moment that you noticed that let's go full blast, this it's time now.
It was really through API. I
Yeah.
personally got involved with API when GPT was originally released, and we were typing to communicate with GPT. And I find that, tedious at best. I'd rather talk to GPT. So I got into building apps so that I could communicate with GPT. Obviously now we have that, that's available to us today, but at the time it wasn't. So I was aggressively trying to build an app so that I could communicate with GPT, which led me to APIs, open AI APIs, in fact. And then that led me to the discovery of, oh, wait a minute, there's other systems that have APIs. And then all of a sudden, wow, POS systems are all opening APIs. And then I'm like, okay, let's forget this talk to GPT app. Let's start talking to our inventory instead. And that's where that switch happened in recent history. And so that would be about, I'd say about 2 years ago. Now here we are, 18 months, 2 years later, live app. I have, an AI coach already on the platform, and we're going to be building out a little bit better so that each coach is dealing with each user and each user's data. Currently, it's just a general trainer for using the SaaS, but in future, it will become really your personal assistant in your retail environment.
That's
That's the
awesome,
goal.
Max. Yeah, I want to dive into some of those case studies that you have currently, or some client success stories that you have. Not even case studies, just real success and impact.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
but two things I want to highlight first is like that I'm really picking up from your backstory, and two things I think every leader should be thinking about is like, one is the curiosity, just asking questions. Got you to a point where all of a sudden you have this really cool idea of measuring time within stores. So I think the curiosity piece is really strong. And I think the other side of it too is the playfulness. Just playing around with ChatGPT and building an app made you realize that it was time now. So like the playfulness and the curiosity are two things that leaders, I think, innately should be thinking about. Like, am I being curious enough? Am I being playful enough? And is your team's doing that? Because that creates that culture for innovation to do some of the amazing things like that SKUMAX is
It's
doing.
too easy to do just enough.
Yes.
I think anyone and everyone can do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not on a giant innovation scale, but just in your personal life, any small improvements compound over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. We get comfortable. Like you said, like it's, we get comfortable with just doing enough, and we don't ever push those, or we don't say ever, but we usually don't push those boundaries. So absolutely. But let's get into the some of your clients and the success
Yeah.
that you're bringing.
I mean, the one that stood out right away was a boutique owner, and I was approaching some people for betas and pilot studies and such. And I told her, I said, hey, here I'm Max, and I built an app that I think can help you. And the first words out of her mouth were, "I am the app." Like, this is my store. Super super common, very emotionally attached, very low on data, with a big heart. And I said, okay, well, what I have is, I told her, I have a metric that I call inventory health. It's very simple. It will just tell you simply how much stale stock you have, how much stock in your store is greater than 120 days old. And for me, 4 months, that should be a seasonal product. If we're not turning an item every 120 days, maybe it's the wrong season, maybe it's the wrong product, but it definitely shouldn't be here. So the inventory health is going to give us a percentage of our items that are over 120 days old, and also an item count, physical count. It's really simple. You sync with your POS system, in this case with Square, and you see those numbers. So this nice lady, she's the app, as she says. And I said, well, okay, so seeing as you're the app, how much inventory do you have in here over 120 days old? What would you take a guess? What would be your percentage, perhaps? And she's like, oh, I don't know, 5 or 10%, or everything in here is great. I know my store, I know my clothing. She synced, and it was almost 50%. Almost 50. So that is a very large disconnect from reality. And that means that most everything in your store isn't doing very well at all. And certainly the shelf space under it, let's say in that example that, the person I want to help originally, $14 per square foot for your store, plus your CAM, plus 20%. What does your shelf space actually cost? It's not free. It's certainly not free. And so, my algorithm, my protocol calculates shelf cost, calculates per item what the shelf space under each item costs you. And that's a loss. And we need to track that as a loss. So 120 days is simply too long. And she was definitely in shock at the time. She kind of played it down. I just let it slide and walked away. I didn't make a huge point of it because it was an emotional reaction. And that's what SkewMax does. It creates an emotional reaction in a store owner that makes them do something. And without that emotional reaction, data is useless. If I can't get a store owner to do something, to act on that data, I'm not doing anyone any service. And I think this inventory health metric is just so obvious. It's right at sync. You sync, it takes a few minutes to sync your inventory. Our protocol runs, and then within minutes, you're like, I have too much stale stock. I need to do something about that.
I love that. Like, you're right. Data and emotion have to come together, right? Because like just looking at a spreadsheet and saying, okay, well, there's the data. That's one thing. But to actually have that visceral emotion of like, oh my gosh, like this is what's actually happening in my stores. I'm not as productive as I thought I was. It makes you want to take that action.
And I've been kind of playing around a little bit because, like I said, I'm atomizing retail. It's extremely granular, and you can use SKUMAX just by yourself. It's very easy. We have progress bars on every item. Visually, you can look through your inventory and see what's doing well and what isn't. But still, it's pretty overwhelming for someone who has never had a metric. And I'm giving you maybe 15. So I think that the coach, the AI training coach, and I really emphasize the training. It's not taking over; it's just showing you how to use SKUMAX. I think that's going to be really helpful to a lot of users that maybe have a harder time interpreting the data.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because when you're looking at data for the first time as a small business owner in retail, and you're used to just kind of reacting to what's around you, it's going to take a minute to really get in tune with the data. So if you have a coach that tells you, hey, look, this is what I'm seeing. Like, so for instance, like with the 50% of product in store that is been in there for 120 days, like what does the coach advise you to do in that moment?
Well, we can't handle all the inventory. I mean, we can't put our whole store on sale maybe right away. I guess we could, but if everything's on sale, nobody cares, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
we're always going to go to those end caps. I mean, that's the same with CPG, but essentially we'd probably pick one product at a time and really heavily discount it. The nice thing about SKUMAX is it's tracking the true cost of goods, and that means warehousing costs. And warehousing costs just don't exist in small business retail. If I have two pallets on order and they get to the warehouse, I don't have 120 days to go pick them up. I have maybe a couple days and they'll start charging me, right? And so if they did charge me for those items sitting in the warehouse, that would be a loss, wouldn't it? So now, why don't we apply that to retail, small business retail? If goods sit in my store, they're losing money. And that's the fundamental shift I'm trying to get at there is we need SMB to realize that item velocity is paramount. And I know in CPG, obviously you have that. Big box retailers have that. But my question would be to you, I guess, Matt, is in CPG, you have to get trained how to use the data, right? They don't just throw you in there and say, here's some data,
Absolutely.
go do something with it. So I'm trying to give you that training in between with AI. And that's the only thing AI is going to do is just train.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You need to be trained. And I think there's like two different sides of it. Is it's like the classically trained of I need to learn how to interpret and use this data. But you also need like the training of like legacy, like in that organization, what does this data mean and how do we react to it? Because if I'm working for, one brand versus the next, we could look at these things completely differently. And I
Different
can see like
category.
where like you have that aggregate of like, well, okay, if you're dealing with all women's fashion stores, you now all of a sudden have like the larger data set of all women fashion stores, and you can guide that client not only on the classical training of the data, but also like the data that you would need because of the data set that you're looking at, the type of business you're looking at. Absolutely. So tell me about like some of the successes that your retailers are having, like the great story about like, just the one that you've recognized that you have like a lot of dead stock for lack of a better word. But like, are you turning profitability for clients and how is that looking?
Well, I'm glad we were kind of talking about categories and how to get through the data because I had a hardware store and obviously the categories in that store are giant. They have all kinds of goods, garden goods, etc. And so they had a lot of items. We did the same thing. They synced and they had a great huge amount of stale inventory. And how are we going to attack it and what should we target? And I said, well, let's just pick, one thing in here. We happen to pick drill bits. And so they've got dozens and dozens of different drill bits. And we just honed in on those and started putting the ones on sale that never moved. And some of them had been there for 2 years. So that's obviously not a great product. So just remove that product from inventory. And then they started bringing in more of the bits that do sell. And because we have that granular per SKU information, it was easy for them to hone in. And I think they did a 21, I don't have to check my notes. It was 21 or 22% improvement in profits just from drill bits. And so
Wow.
with a new store, you can't just attack every category if everything's stale. But so just one thing at a time. And once you see that you can make that improvement, discount, put it on the end cap. You might have to remove it from inventory. Okay. I'm sorry. There's some things that just aren't going to sell and I can't make them sell. That's something you might have to address. But for the most part, we'll be able to show you the exact cost of a good. So let's say you purchase an item for $100 and you're trying to sell it for 200, right? Just really easy math. We're going to make $100 on that. Well, actually it's been sitting here for 2 years and that shelf space under it costs, 40 cents a week or 40 cents a day, whatever that number might be. We calculate that number. So we can show you, you can pull up an item, you can pull up a SKU and you can say, this is exactly what this SKU has cost me to date. All right. So that's the exact break-even price on that product. And I can look at that instantly. So if let's say a customer comes in and says, oh, can I get a better deal on this? I just quick look. Sure. I can sell this for as little as $30. How's 50? How's 60? Who cares? What I'm saying is we can make adjustments in real time. And this is frontline support. It's 100% frontline support. I'm sitting at my cash register. I've got a customer who wants to pay me, but they want a little bit of a better deal. Can I sell it for less? Well, you have no idea what that product costs you, do you? And most people are like, oh, wait a minute, I've got to go check my inventory and my receipts. And how am I going to, unless you're emotionally attached to it, you have no idea what the true lowest price is of that product. And so SKUMAX gives you that. And that alone is ammunition for you to go and remove a lot of stuff in your store that's unfortunately taking up room and eroding your profit.
Yeah, that's a unique solution for sure, of being able to be at the register and be able to offer a discount because now you know every single piece of data. Yeah, really unique. Now, as far as like thinking about like working with mom and pop stores, a lot of our listeners are big box retailers. Like, what can larger brands and retailers learn from the small stores, and how can they leverage these types of insights?
Well, in my opinion, trends start in SMB. They don't start in big box stores. And the lag between the small business data and big box and CPG movement is, in my opinion, just giant. It's a huge gap. I'm proving this in SMB because there's open APIs and it's an easy place to target. Big box currently pretty much sell all their data to maybe Nielsen, ROI. And so I can't really get big box data, but that's all right because I'm going to give small businesses better visibility than big box stores have. And then big box stores are going to come to me and say, hey, I want to query my data in natural language, right? You want to ask as a big box retailer, don't you want to ask your store how it's doing? Talk to your store. And so that's what I'm doing because I'm using all of these data points to create real-time SKU movement. I can ask it anything I want. I'm not waiting for Nielsen to give me a report that says your category is doing this or your aggregated data is showing this. No, I'm showing you your real-time atomized data right now, and it's queryable by voice. I'm sorry, that's a paradigm shift. That's a totally new level of business. And I think big box retailers will see that value. And again, I can't get into big box because they're like, well, I sell my data to Nielsen for $5 million a year. Do you want to pay me $5 million and we can talk? No. They'll come to us because we're giving them better visibility than Nielsen is in-house. And so that's my progression is small business into big box. And then eventually CPG, I think, will probably be buying most of our data, especially the SMB data, because that's trend setting. I can tell you right now, Labubus are starting to sell more in Florida. That's my goal. That's my goal. And I don't know what you do with that information. I feel like advertisers will be able to see, they'll be able to A/B test the market live and see what SKUs are being sold. So they're A/B testing a SKU advertising and they're seeing true real-time sales coming back. And the great thing is we have the technology. We're probably going to have to partner with Azure or Visa and MasterCard because their transactional silos are giant. And I'm basically putting my claws into those transactional silos and I'm turning those things into frontline support. And I think big box might like frontline support too. I don't know. We'll see. But
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're getting to the point now where we do need to take action on our data, and we're realizing that by the time the data gets to us, it's sold, right? And now we're reactionary rather than taking action immediately, which is not good for our business. A lot can happen in that, in that delay of response. So we need to be a little bit more proactive. And I think this is a great solution that allows
SkewMax
proactivity.
is historical.
Hmm.
and predictive. And so all these other legacy systems, they're all historical. Everything's historical. And now what they're doing is they're taking aggregated data and they're running AI models on it to try and improve it. But the improvement would be to atomize it. And that's where I see I'm not trying to compete with Nielsen or those guys.
Hmm.
I'm not even interested. I'm doing my own thing, you know. But I think they're
Yeah.
going to be interested.
Definitely, definitely. And I do agree with you too, as far as like, small businesses lead the way of trends. Like if you look at like food and beverage, like and CPG, it always happens in restaurants first, right? And then it goes to the CPG aisles and then it goes to the chain. So it always happens in small business first. They're the ones that can react faster, test things out quicker, and find that success. So definitely those are places that I think big box retailers and CPG brands should be looking, and they don't have access to it today. So I think there's a lot of benefit that you're offering for sure. So thinking about the future of SkewMax, this is just the beginning. It's just under 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears of you building out SkewMax. But like, what are you looking for as far as like collaboration with potential clients and companies? Like, what exactly do you need to put like
Well,
fuel on the fire?
I'm in SMB right now, which is amplifying me for sure. I would definitely be interested in maybe talking to a big box retailer or two and seeing if we can't import their data. I mean, I know we can import their data, seeing if they would allow us to import their data so that we can give them insights. And again, that natural language communication, talk to your inventory. I would love to see a big box retailer try that. They're going to have to, they're going to have to kind of go out on a limb a little bit. And maybe if you want to wait a year until I'm in all small business, that's fine. But if you're ready now, I'd be willing to open up the line of communication and just see if we can't have a big box store that can communicate with its inventory in real time with their own voice. That to me is the end all be all. How many black socks did we sell yesterday? I mean, maybe you want to know that, maybe you don't, but I think it's interesting to have that available. It's the potential that you have with this new layer. To me, is it's almost infinite. Then we're going to go into consumer facing apps that, just like Amazon, a consumer can get on their phone and find out what product is in what store where, real time. And so I'm digitizing retail one SKU at a time, basically turning physical retail into an Amazon network. And it's happening. It's live. We're onboarding users. This isn't a concept. It's a new paradigm for sure.
Absolutely, Max. Well, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much.
for being on the show today. I think you've left us with some really great insights, ways to be more curious and to be more playful, and also finding ways to be more productive in our stores. I think that a retailer should jump at the chance of working with you and what you're doing at SkewMax. I see the value here, and it'd be really interesting to see what happens on the next round of testing with larger retailers.
More production, less effort. That's the goal.
Yeah,
Less
that's the
effort,
goal.
more light.
Yes. Thank you, Max. Thanks so much for being on the show today. Today's conversation reminds us that innovation isn't just about new tech, it's about rethinking the invisible costs that shape how retail works. A huge thanks to Maximilian Anderson for joining me and sharing the SkewMax story. You can learn more about SkewMax at SkewMax, SKUMAX.app. And if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and share it with leaders who is ready to turn time into profit and keeping innovating on purpose. Thank you, Max.
Thanks. I appreciate your time. Awesome.
We have made it to the end of another episode. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of things before you go. If you have found value in this episode, I am sure you'll find value in what we have coming up. So please subscribe so you will have access and know when we launch the next episode. Also, leave a review. The more reviews we have, the further our reach becomes, and I truly want this to be heard by as many leaders as possible. Don't hog this all for yourself. I would love to hear your insights on this topic, so meet me on social media at Matt Mueller Innovation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And lastly, if you want to learn more about my story and what I can do for you and your company, go to themindfulinnovator.com. I would love to help you innovate on purpose. Until next time, just remember, bring a level of awareness to each conversation, each observation, each moment, and you can create great change in this world. Thank you.